Oh, here you are. How are you, Aldo?
Hola, ¿qué tal?
Hola, ¿qué tal? We are not going to speak in Spanish today. Not at all.
Good. This is my Spanish.
Okay. But it's quite good. It's quite
Right?
good.
It's
It's
a
quite good.
start.
Yeah, it's a start. So you are in Austria right now.
That's correct. Yeah, I'm at the winery.
You're at the winery. Okay, so we are going to start speaking about that. Tell me about what is because I have the first thing I have is a very like interesting thing. I read about you that you produce very interesting whites, Gruner whites, and very famous in Austria. And I read something. Tell me if this is true. It said it was a style of wine that I've never wanted to make. Is that true? And why?
It's funny. I have this one wine, and it's ironically I have it at the table.
Oh, that's it. And you are drinking it right now.
That's correct.
I'm with
Um,
water. I'm not at your now.
what happened? I have for you it's a little earlier.
Yes.
Um, no, it's only one wine where I said this. The idea, to make wine actually started in Argentina. When the first time I came in 2008 to Argentina, I I was so inspired, and I remember I had a tasting at Achaval Ferrer,
Hmm.
and they asked me to criticize their wine, and I said, "Who am I?" Right? So I'm not gonna criticize your wine. I mean, but then it kind of stimulated me, and I kept thinking, and I said, actually, they have a point. I criticize only, but I make nothing. And criticizing is very easy. Making
The
it is a whole
easiest part
different.
of all.
It's very very different, and I was looking to. I evolved this idea, and then I shared this with Gerhard Kracher, who I, strangely enough, a couple of weeks after I came back from Argentina, visited New York, and we met for an early dinner. And I shared this experience with him, and I said, I really want to do that. I know I'm a sommelier, and I will be a sommelier, but I like to get my hands dirty, and I like to put hands on there. And it was super interesting. He said, why don't we do something together? And that made sense. So '09 was the first vintage. Meanwhile, right now we are at 4 different labels, and the very last one was the Lion. That's this wine which I was said because I always look, I work at Le Bernardin, so we look for complexity, we look for concentration, we look for making things more complicated and to elevate it. But then our Israeli and Russian importer, they came to us and said, we want something more easygoing, like when you sit on the beach or when you sit on a pool or just as a simple aperitif. And I didn't care for easy, easy is first, I'm not good at easy jobs.
Okay.
uh, I like to be challenged, and so, and Gerhard and I have this kind of relationship. If one doesn't agree with the other one, it's the other one's job to bring a good enough argument.
Okay. But you are in the process when you produce the wine. You are in the process, or just tasting and giving
No,
your
no, no, we
okay.
are in
This
the
is great.
process. We're really hands-on.
Okay.
So the other interesting part was, and we went out one night. We drank quite a good amount of wine, and he came by again and said, okay, let's make it 2-3 barrels for them, and then you leave me alone. And now he gave it a friend of mine to taste, and my friend said, wow, this is really really good. And now it's the most successful wine. It kills me, but it's good.
And how was it for you? Because being a sommelier is like always being in front of the producer, of the winemaker. What parts of the processes did you think or amazed you, or did you find something new in that?
Oh, this is every day. It's every day because look, as a sommelier, we think we know a little bit about wine. The reality is, when you make it, you realize very quickly you don't know a whole lot. It's
Just
shocking.
the books, yeah.
It's shocking. And the other part is, the major part was, I thought I was an okay taster, but when you taste with wine, because look, the reality is, look, if I if I visit wineries, it's like visiting a large family. They line up, the well-behaved children, they are lined up in the front, and the not well-behaved children, they are locked away. But look, I get to see them now. If something happens, I can experiment, and I learn like insane, like spontaneous fermentation, inoculating yeast, you know, all these trials, fining, not fining, how does it taste? When something goes wrong, how does that taste? And so on. It's endless.
Beautiful. And you are now producing only Gruner, not a single red, or are you expecting to do that sometime? No.
No, I always make this running joke, you know, how many great white Burgundy producers make great reds, and vice versa. There's not that many. And again, I'm very friendly with many of them, but the problem is, look, I like to focus and improve things and make it better. Right? Again, and I cannot distract myself too much because, look, my main job is Le Bernardin and Aldo Sohm Wine Bar. Plus, I work with Aldo, you know, in the United States. So that's another big mission.
Okay. You are still doing service in Le Bernardin, of course. No, not in these days, but you are still in service.
Yeah.
In service. Okay, we're going to speak a
I
little
love
bit
it.
about that. But I read another thing that I read about you is that you expected to be a chef, or you wanted to be a chef some time ago. Yes.
Oh, this is how I came into the hospitality industry.
Okay, tell me about
I
that.
wanted to become a chef. Yeah, I mean, listen, what do we know when you're 15 years old or young? We have these fantasies, right? And of course, I've seen my father's friend came back. He worked as a chef on a cruise ship, and then he showed what they all cooked and this, you know, Thai components and these Japanese components. And I thought, wow, this is amazing, right? And you know, traveling the world, I thought, wow, this is even better, right? I wanted to do that because I was always open to the world. But then, you know, my father convinced me to go into hospitality school. And in my first internship, I worked in the kitchen, and it was a nightmare. The screaming, the yelling, you know, a plate flying through the entire kitchen, all this stuff. And, you know, it came to me, you know, this is not my world, and it became very quickly evident. And I think at the end of my stage, they put me in the front of the house into service. And then I was blossoming up. And even the chef said after, what a waste of time putting you in the kitchen. It's funny, you know, sometimes, you know, if you want something and it's not really you, you realize it very quickly.
Yeah, but you never studied, so never studied nothing related to gastronomy.
No, my parents, nobody has any background to that. But I finished,
Okay.
you know, I finished school. I did everything. It was part of it. And you cannot be a sommelier and don't know anything about food. That's just not how it works.
Okay, but let's speak as a willing chef, not a sommelier. What do you think about pairing, but with the side pointed to the kitchen more than to the service of wine?
There's a good friend of mine, Juan Gargano, I see online. Look, pairing is, it's all about, as a sommelier, you have more wiggle room to navigate. As a chef, you know, it's just take with Eric Hubert, it takes them sometimes to develop 3 months, one dish. And even then, after that, they start tuning. So for me, I can adjust with the wines relatively quickly. I just come with a wide array and really taste into that. And I have much more flexibility there. So very rarely, I mean, this happened maybe once with big wine dinners. That happens. They adjust the dish for me, but typically not the other way around.
Okay.
And you know, I can tweak, and I like it. And what I also do is, because typically when a new dish comes out, it's not that every cook is absolutely in tune. I come back a week or 10 days after and taste the dish again, because they might have tweaked a little bit and it changes the entire pairing. It's just this little detail. And I taste the sauce also all the time at Le Bernardin, especially because you know, the way how Eric cooks is, he says it also, barely touched, almost raw, lightly cooked, right? So I look often more to the sauce. I know this is very contradicting,
No,
but
no.
that's where he's very playful. Every chef has a different signature or a different style of cooking. And as a sommelier, look, you have to work with the cuisine. You know, back in the day, they always went on conflict, but this is kind of, to me, very foolish, because the customer doesn't care whose problem it is. The customer wants to have a good time. And if you're in conflict, you cannot deliver a good time. That's just not possible. So that's why I don't even go into that. So I always look and tweak, and also look when they adjust the sauce, because our service is relatively long. On a Saturday, we open at 5. The last dinner table we take at 11. And of course, in the kitchen, it's hot. So the sauce gets reduced at a certain amount of time. For me, it's the key is, you know, when does he readjust it? At what hour? At 5, it's perfect. But at 8, it might be different. So I have to find the golden middle way, just to tweak that I have kind of the middle range. It's very interesting to see that.
Okay. So you are talking, you actually do 2 shifts. You work in the restaurants and in the wine bar every night?
I go back and forth all day long.
Going. And how long have you been doing this?
This now, I mean, at Le Bernardin, I'm there since 13 years. And doing this, I do this since 6 years, going back and forth.
Okay, quite a long time.
Oh, it's crazy. You need to be a little bit looker for that.
What are the things that excites you more related to service? Because it's something that you have to put your body on it.
The people. It's for me fascinating, you know, and I observe this a lot with young people. People often think, you know, being front of the house and doing service is something inferior. It's not so good. I actually think the other way around. Service you have to do everywhere. If you go to a bank and have a big client, you have to do service, right? No matter, or if you, in anything, we're service driven. So in my case, look, I have a customer sitting down on a table. That person wants something from me, otherwise he would have never showed up. And you meet the greatest people, and sometimes you meet very famous people. Sometimes they become famous while you know them. So this is one rule in New York I've learned very quickly. You don't know who is in front of you, and you never know where these people are in 2 years. And it's fascinating, the network you can spin around the globe, which is super, super exciting. And there's so many interesting people, you can learn so much from them. And I find this is the best part of that. That's why, you know, I'm always drawn to people. Now with social distancing, it's very difficult for me.
Yeah, very difficult. But and if you have to choose some differences between the people that drink wine in the restaurant and the people that drink wine in your wine bar, which are the differences?
You know, I don't approach it this way, because every table is different, no matter where. There are parallels. There can be the same clients too. It's just every situation is very different, and I treat people also like that. Look, and I give you key examples. There's days where one client orders a $5,000 bottle of wine. The next day he comes back and orders a $70 bottle of wine, and everybody's in shock. What happened, right? But listen, I said, it doesn't really matter. The day prior he might have had a big client, and today he just you know, comes with a friend who. It's irrelevant, you know, and sometimes, you know, people are in a bad mood because they had a terrible business meeting and they have to come down. No, but you have to work with that. Yes. So every situation is very, very different. Of course, at Le Bernardin, you know, you deal with a lot of high-profile wines, you know, Montrachet or Chateau Margaux and all these wines. They're fairly common. At the wine bar, not so much. I get to see the real world, you know. Also, you know, we have Beaujolais, we sell Malbecs. I think it's very, very important for me as a sommelier. It completes the picture.
Okay. And what are the differences when you have to prepare the wine list for the
Oh, that's
restaurant
day
as
and
well?
night.
Okay.
The wine list at Le Bernardin obviously has to be much more comprehensive. Sorry, has to be much more wide and classic, with obviously very strong focus onto it. The wine bar, I was fighting it first with myself, and then a very good friend of mine and a very successful business person said to me, he received an email from a good business, from a good friend of his, and he said it's one of these long emails, which he said I hate.
Never ending.
Never ending. He said I typically read the first sentence and the last sentence, and the last sentence he said my friend wrote, I apologize for writing you this long email, but I was in a rush. In other words, look, to write a wine list with 1,000 references or 5,000 references, yes, of course, it's a book. The problem with that is I'd rather have a short, precise wine list. And look, my wife is a Latina. And she is not in the wine industry. If it takes me longer than 10 minutes to find a wine, it's not a good dinner. The first two courses is not a good atmosphere. So, and I see this. Look, you have to be able to pick a wine very quick, in a wine bar especially. So I have only 250 references there, maximum. And I change that and rotate and make sure, have old, I have young, I have rich, I have light, and all kind of things. There you have to think quite a lot.
Okay, but how do you manage it? Because when we talk about, for example, Le Bernardin, we know that for that type of restaurant, we like need those books with 1,000 references. How do you manage it? Because I think that there are a lot of people that goes and knows specific what to ask for or what to drink, but a lot of people like get a little mess in there.
Yeah, but that's why we're here for. As a sommelier, look, you try to read that client, and you see very quickly when you go on the table, are they comfortable with such a wine list or are they not? And I've often been asked, what is your favorite client? To me, actually, it's the client who comes the first time to a 3 Michelin star restaurant. And sometimes, these can be very young people. They saved an entire year for that meal. And you see often the suit is maybe a little bit dated, but that's probably the best they can afford. But look, it's so touching to me. And of course, you can bet onto that. They open the wine list. They come already with the head down. They walk into the restaurant. And you can bet they open the list at the page with the Romani Conti, where you go immediately into 5,000, 10,000, 50,000. Of course, for them, that page they will open guaranteed. It's all the time. And of course, for them, that's over, right? And I go to them and tell them, listen, here's a glass of champagne. Enjoy.
Relax a little bit.
Relax. Let us work. We're here for that. And just enjoy. I find the perfect wine in a comfortable price range. We're not gonna kill you. That's not what we want. We want to give you really great time and having come back very soon.
Okay. That is to be a host. That's kind of the job of a sommelier.
Yeah, but look, you get the most beautiful emails or letters from clients like that. And those are going to be your most loyal regular customers. Again, you never know where these people come in 2 years. They might become very successful.
Okay. So if you have to choose, let's say, three things or three characteristics that are that you have to have in mind when you prepare a wine list for a fine dining restaurant or for a more comfortable thing.
Well, it has to be diverse. That's key number one. The second thing, it has to be interesting. You have to cover both interesting wines and traditional wines. And lately, you have to think also a little bit about a certain price point. Expensive, less expensive, and also expensive. Because look, both are equally important. Of course, if you have your wine list contains only 90% is above $1,000 and the other 10% is below, that might be a little bit off the limit here what you're trying to produce, but you have to have both. Because I've had these discussions with journalists where they always looked for what is below $100 and said, look, I completely see where you're coming from. However, we are in Midtown New York. If I come with a Pinot Grigio to a couple of attorneys who just closed a multi-billion-dollar deal, this might be great, for a young people who just wanted something refreshing, but they want to have something substantial. What I'm going to do with the Pinot Grigio? They're going to laugh at me. So you have to have both, and I think that's the key part.
Okay, that's great. Okay, let's talk a little bit about your book, Wine Simple. How is to be a wine writer? What's that experience? We can buy it in your site. Is that okay?
aldosohm.com, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's funny, it's when I see how successful Wine Simple is, it is very humbling. It's chilling, and it was so much work. But I had a phenomenal team. I mean, I cannot thank enough Christine Mulke, who wrote this book with me. So the book sounds in English because I don't speak English. And also the designers, with Elena Sullivan, she got immediately the concept. Also our editor, we had absolutely phenomenal. I was in a group of females and they were incredible. It was a journey because I don't know anything about writing books. So it was very interesting, how to gather all the information, what is important, what is not important. And then when you come into the editing process, it's like sometimes you're ready to shoot yourself because it's so tedious. Then you have to shorten here, the text is not long enough there. Then they shorten it, and then it doesn't make any sense anymore, or you lose the essence. So you have to redo it. And we wrote Wine Simple within 14 months. So from the get-go until handing everything in, including the 3 editing rounds. So it was a journey.
It was a journey. And besides Wine Simple, of course, which other books do you recommend for people who is starting to drink wine or to know a little bit more?
Oh, I actually have this in my book. Sometimes people are so competitive and look always me. To me, look, the world is so big, why not sharing all the knowledge and supporting your other friends? There's a ton. I mean, look, I love Jancis Robinson. I'm madly in love with her. The other thing is, what I like is Wine Folly. She's excellent, Madeleine Puckett, and quite a charismatic firecracker. I just laugh when I see her because I just will have a good time. And the 24-hour wine expert actually from Jancis is phenomenal. Really a light book, but filled with information. And one thing I have to say, because I'm madly in love with that book, is the New Vigneron from Luis Gutierrez. I love him. He's such an excellent writer, and he writes also that people understand it, people also from the non-industry. So it's very important to capture these people.
Okay. Let's talk about this a little bit. In 2008, you participated in the Best Sommelier of the World competition. Is that okay? Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think, or how much do you think the profile of the sommelier has changed since then? Because what I've seen is that in recent editions, perhaps very young sommeliers and with a more relaxed spirit, very far from the ABC sommelier, very related to the fine dining restaurant, they were the one who won. Sorry. Do you agree with this? Do you think that the world of sommelier is going like that way?
I mean, it's a very good question. I mean, look, our profession is evolving. our restaurants are also evolving. So it's only natural for a sommelier to adjust to it, otherwise you have no job. What's right or wrong, everybody has to explain for himself or herself, depending. I'm quite open-minded to that. To me, what I only stress for people is with wine, you have to taste a lot of wine, and in order to taste a lot of wine, you have to become old. That's where you built this data bank. No, but it sounds funny, but it's so much.
Of course.
It's absolutely experience driven. It's 100%. Now look, when I was in my 20s, I was very eager. I thought I will conquer the world. But it's a little bit like you're in a belated adolescence in your wine knowledge. Mm-hmm. It takes time, until you become round and not as angry, eager, and you become these edges, you soften out a little bit, your edges. I see this often young people, but look, you have very talented people out there, very, very talented people. They just need a mentor. Look, I look for mentors still today who inspire me. I think that's very, very important. And there's always someone who's better than you, but that's good. That's good competition. So you study and you work harder.
Okay. And besides the competition, do you think that the day by day of the sommelier goes that way, or it has nothing to do with that?
That depends on the country. It's because, look, in America, for instance, the master sommelier is much more important than the competitions. For us Europeans, the competitions were very, very important. Mm-hmm. So it's hard to say, because there is no right or wrong. Me personally, I believe it made me become a better sommelier because I had to work super hard. And there were a lot of disappointments and on the way, but I never given up. But me personally, I love the competition years. I loved it. I mean, I'm happy they're over. I went into a new life chapter, but that's it.
Okay, we have some few questions in here, so I'm going to tell you two. Here, they are asking if you think that the restaurant will reopen this year. Do you have any information about that?
I wish it would have an information. I have no idea. I mean, things look a little desperate right now in the United States. Yeah, it's looking like in a crystal ball. I have no idea.
Okay.
I'm probably more accurate to tell you the weather from next month.
Okay. Here, another question for you is: what type of wine do you usually drink at home?
Oof. Everything.
Okay.
A white, red, sometimes it doesn't really matter. Champagne, I'm not a moody person, but I'm a very moody drinker. Okay. I look if it's super hot, I look for something crisp and fresh. If it's freezing cold, I want a hearty red wine. If I had a really good day and I feel like I deserve something good, then I open a really good bottle.
Okay.
There's I don't exclude. And you have to taste also new stuff, which you don't know.
Okay. Which was the last wine that you drank?
I had yesterday a huge wine dinner. Mm-hmm. I had a Magnum. You probably don't know that. It's an Austrian producer called Pöckel, Rêve de Jeunesse 2000. And it's a super rare wine to get. And it was amazing. I had this wine for so many years. And I have a cellar also in Austria at my father's house, which I can't really access except once a year. So those wines are protected. And it was amazing. We had this yesterday, and it was like off the charts.
Okay, I had one question shot down that it said which was the last wine that shocked you or surprised you. Okay, this is one of it. And do you remember another one that makes you it was interesting because of something?
Yes, I had recently a friend of mine texted me a wine. It was a Chardonnay from Austria, and a little natural inspired. And I bought it because I wanted to try it. And the wine made me think for 2 days. I couldn't get my head around it because the reduction he put up, and the way how it was texturally driven. And so that kind of, I called my friend and I said, I cannot wrap my head around it, how good that wine was. And of course, we have a good friend of mine here joining in. Of course, a former sommelier of mine, Marie Baron. She makes a wine called Colette.
Mm-hmm.
It's in partnership with Raj Par.
Yeah, here it appeared, the Colette. Yeah,
yeah.
Cesar is talking about it.
Yeah.
Okay, and is there any label or a specific wine that you put in each wine list that you make, or one type of style that you say that you think that should be in there?
Yeah, you should have in every wine list a Sancerre or a Chablis. That's a benchmark because it's not very difficult to get one of these. And of course, there's an ocean out of Sancerres. There's no question about it. But it's very easy to test good ones and great ones.
Mm-hmm. Okay, another question that here, let me see, the name is Fernando is asking, why New York and not Vienna? Why you are in New York, not right now, but with your businesses?
And that was part of the competition. Because I've realized all the top guys, all the top contenders, they lived in a foreign country because you're not allowed to compete in your native language.
Mm-hmm.
And my English was okay, but not good enough. So, and I said, I can do that as well. And that's why I relocated to New York. New York felt right. You know, I of course, as an Austrian, you always try to go to Wolfgang Puck, but I've never gotten a response. And, but in life, everything makes sense. At first, I was terribly disappointed, but in life, everything makes sense. So
why you were disappointed at first?
Well, I mean, look, you're very ambitious, you're very eager, you want to do it, and it's hard. I mean, listen, I know how he feels every day. You know, he gets a lot of so. But then I came straight to New York, and of course, my best friend said London wasn't far enough for you, right? Mm-hmm. But from London, I didn't get the right instinct. From New York, I did, and yeah, I think it worked out.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Okay, but let's go back to Austria, and another thing that you are very in is related to glass. And Austria and glasses are like, what can you tell us about that? Because you are a Salto, yes, you are a Salto ambassador.
You know, very early in my early days as sommelier, I realized one thing very quickly, and I was very fortunate. I grew up very close to the Riedel factory in Kufstein. Mm-hmm. And I realized, because of Mr. Klaus Riedel, in today's world, Maximilian Riedel's grandfather, he toured around Austria and had always 3 different shapes of glasses and let people blind taste you the same wine, just to see, you know, how much impact does one glass of wine have, or a different shape of glass has on the wine. And he served in a Burgundy glass, he had a Bordeaux glass, in a regular glass, and he served the same bottle and let people taste. And people said, oh, this is Burgundy, this is Bordeaux, this is Piedmont. And he said, it's all the same wine. And my eyes popped up, totally. And I realized, you know, if you work in a restaurant, serving wine is not good enough. You have to make sure it comes in the appropriate vessel, just to to work with this accordingly. And then 13 years ago, I came around Aldo, and I thought that's a game changer. A, because of the lightness, A, of the precision. And they said they still, so when I tested it also, this glass, and from the performance, the way how it performed, it was just a game changer for me. And that's how I started joining with them and pushing that. Of course, in America, that was kind of, what is a sommelier all of a sudden doing with a wine glass? But look, this is not an additional service I offer for the clients, just to showcase that.
Okay. Okay. So Aldo, it was so nice to having this chat. I really enjoyed it, and I really want to thank you, myself, of course, and at Chefs TV to be part of these wine talks. It was a absolutely pleasure.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
See you all commenting on my new hairstyle. This is all COVID.
That's we are in quarantine, you know. That's okay. You're forgiven. You're forgiven.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Great seeing you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. See you. Okay, and.